In the glittering, merciless world of 1950s Hollywood, stars weren't born, they were manufactured. Every smile was scripted, every date was a publicity stunt, and every secret was a ticking time bomb. For the men and women who became golden idols, the price of fame was often their own identity. They were properties, owned and operated by studios that sold a fantasy to the American public, a fantasy of perfect, clean-cut, all-American sweethearts. But what happens when the product doesn't match the label? What happens when the handsome heartthrob, the boy every girl dreamed of, was living a lie that could shatter the entire illusion? This is the story of a man who was built from the ground up by the Hollywood machine, a man who reached the pinnacle of stardom, all while hiding a profound and dangerous truth. A truth that, if revealed, would have meant the end of everything. That 86, gay icon Tab Hunter revealed the shocking truths about his Hollywood love life, and it wasn't all glamour. At the peak of his fame, he was America's golden boy, the handsome heartthrob on every girl's wall. But behind that perfect smile was a secret that could have destroyed him, and a forbidden love affair that defied an entire industry. This is the story of the immense pressure and dark truths of being a gay man during Hollywood's golden age, and how Tab Hunter fought to live his own life before the world knew him as Tab Hunter. The blonde, blue-eyed California dream. He was Arthur Andrew Kelm, born in New York City on July 11, 1931. His mother, Gertrude, was a German immigrant, and his father, Charles Kelm, was an abusive man. Their marriage was short-lived and turbulent. A few years after Arthur was born, Gertrude made a courageous decision. She took her 2 young sons and fled, moving them across the country to California to start over. She reclaimed her maiden name Gellion, changed her sons' names as well, and Arthur Kelm became Arthur J. Gellion. He would never see his father again. Life in California wasn't easy. Gertrude worked hard to support her boys, but young Arthur was a quiet, sensitive kid who felt like an outsider. He found solace in 2 passions, figure skating and horseback riding. The ice rink and the horse stables were his sanctuaries, places where he could be himself, away from the hardships of the world. It was his love for horses that would become a constant throughout his life. Growing up, Arthur had a restless energy. At just 15, he lied about his age and enlisted in the U.S. Coast Guard, looking for structure and adventure. That adventure was cut short when his real age was discovered, and he was discharged a year later. He returned to California and went right back to the one place he felt at home, the horse stables. He didn't know it yet, but this return to his passion was about to set him on a path he could never have imagined. The quiet kid who found peace with horses was about to be discovered, dismantled, and rebuilt as someone entirely new. He was about to become Tab Hunter. Post-war, Hollywood was a factory, and its most valuable products were stars. And one of the most notorious star makers was Henry Wilson, a predatory agent known for his stable of handsome young actors. Wilson had a formula: find a boy with the right look, strip him of his past, and give him a new name, a new history, and a crash course in how to be a movie star. He'd done it for Rock Hudson, and he was about to do it for Arthur Gellion. Actor Dick Clayton spotted the handsome stable hand and introduced him to Wilson. Wilson saw the raw material immediately: the sun-bleached hair, blue eyes, and athletic build. This was the all-American boy personified. But Arthur Gellion just wouldn't do. According to Hollywood legend, Wilson said, "We've got to find something to tab you with." When Arthur mentioned his hobby of riding hunter-jumper horses, Wilson declared, "That's it, we'll call you Tab Hunter." And just like that, a new identity was born. Tab Hunter was a product, designed and packaged for mass consumption. After acting lessons, he was thrust into his first film, The Lawless, in 1950. His real break came in 1955 with the World War II drama Battle Cry. He played a wholesome young Marine, and the role cemented his image as the ultimate Psy guy, the perfect, safe boyfriend for every teenage girl in America. Warner Brothers signed him to a 7-year contract, and from 1955 to 1959, he was the studio's most profitable star. The studio machine went into overdrive. Hunter's face was on every teen magazine cover. His appeal was so immense that Warner Brothers launched a record label just for him. His 1957 single, Young Love, shot to #1 on the Billboard charts and stayed there for 6 weeks. He was a multimedia sensation, built on a carefully constructed image of heterosexual all-American wholesomeness. But this image was a fragile facade. To feed the public's hunger for celebrity romance, The studio orchestrated a series of high-profile dates. His most famous public pairing was with his beautiful co-star Natalie Wood. They were photographed everywhere, looking like the perfect Hollywood couple. It was pure fiction, a publicity stunt agreed upon by everyone involved. It was part of the job, because behind the cameras, Tab Hunter was living a completely different life, real, passionate, and dangerously secret life. While the public swooned over Tab Hunter, the all-American boy, the man himself was navigating a treacherous, hidden world. In the intensely homophobic climate of 1950s America, being gay was considered a mental illness, a moral failing, and a criminal offense. For a movie star, it was a career-ending secret. The studios knew, of course, but they enforced a strict code of silence. They didn't care about their star's happiness, only their marketability. As Hunter himself later put it, "I believed that a person's happiness depends on being true to themselves. The dilemma, of course, was that being true to myself sexually was impossible." This double life created a crushing sense of isolation. Hunter lived in a state of constant vigilance, his life split in two. The public half was a performance, filled with staged dates. The private half was a desperate search for real connection in a world that demanded he remain invisible. It was in this clandestine world that Hunter found his most meaningful relationships. One of his first was with champion figure skater Ronnie Robertson. Their shared passion for athletics created a natural bond. But the relationship was doomed by the same fear of exposure that defined Hunter's life. Robertson ultimately chose his career over their romance, a painful reminder of the price of their secret. But the most significant romance of his young life was with another rising star, Anthony Perkins. When they met in the mid-1950s, Hunter was the sun-kissed golden boy from Warner Brothers. Perkins, soon to be famous as Norman Bates in Psycho, was the dark, intense intellectual from Paramount. Both were on the fast track to superstardom, and both were gay. Their connection was immediate and powerful. For the first time, Hunter had found someone who truly understood the dizzying fame and the crushing secret they both carried. Their relationship was a genuine, loving partnership, but they had to take extraordinary precautions. They snuck into each other's homes. They arrived at parties separately, exchanging only fleeting glances from across the room. Every moment together was a stolen one. The studios were aware, but as long as they maintained their public personas, they were willing to look the other way. The end came not from a tabloid, but from the studios themselves. According to Hunter's account, Paramount Pictures saw the relationship as a liability. They viewed Hunter, the Warner Brothers star, as a threat to their investment in Perkins. In a cold, calculated business move, the studio executives forbade Perkins from seeing Hunter. For Perkins, who was more beholden to his studio's control, the pressure was too much. He complied. The romance was over, crushed by the impersonal hand of the Hollywood machine, and Hunter was left devastated. It was a brutal lesson in Hollywood's golden age. A star's heart was just another asset to be managed. In the 1950s, the ultimate nightmare for any closeted star was Confidential magazine. It was a vicious scandal sheet that trafficked in outing Hollywood's biggest names. In 1955, its sights turned to Tab Hunter. The person who led them there was his former agent, Henry Wilson, the very man who had named him. As Hunter told it, Wilson was in a bind. Confidential had a story about his prize client, Rock Hudson, and was ready to print it. In a desperate move to save Hudson, Wilson made a devil's bargain. He threw Tab Hunter to the wolves. He fed the magazine a story from Hunter's past. Back in 1950, a 19-year-old Hunter had been at a private all-male party that was raided by police. He was arrested for disorderly conduct, a minor charge, but the police report labeled it a pajama party, a coded term for a gay gathering. The story hit newsstands with a lurid headline detailing the limp-wristed affair. This should have been the end for Hunter. The all-American image was now tainted with the crime of homosexuality. He was convinced his career was over. But then, something strange happened. The studio machine, which had so callously controlled him, suddenly moved to protect its investment. As luck would have it, a different magazine, Photoplay, had already scheduled a glowing cover story about Hunter, painting him as the dream date of millions. That positive article came out at the same time, directly counteracting the sleazy, exposing Confidential. The public, it turned out, didn't seem to care. The arrest was dismissed as a youthful mistake or a smear campaign. His fans stayed loyal, and his movies remained box office hits. Against all odds, the scandal did nothing to harm his career. He had survived, but the incident left a permanent scar. He'd been betrayed by the man who discovered him, and his survival came down to sheer luck and studio politics. The scandal was over, but the knowledge that he was just one story away from ruin would follow him for years. Surviving the confidential scandal was a victory. But by the early 1960s, the Hollywood studio system was fading. Tastes were changing. The clean-cut image that had made Hunter a superstar was starting to feel dated, feeling creatively stifled. He made a bold move and bought out his contract with Warner Brothers to seek independence, but without a major studio behind him, his A-list career began to fade. He took roles in B-movies and European films, and his TV sitcom, The Tab Hunter Show, lasted only a season. For many, this would have been the quiet end of a once bright career. But Tab Hunter was a survivor. He transitioned to a new phase, working steadily in dinner theater and on television. His personal life also entered a new, more stable chapter. He met Alan Glazer, a young film producer, and they began a partnership that would last for more than 3 decades, until Hunter's death. With Glazer, Hunter finally found the stability and unconditional love he'd been denied during his years as a closeted idol. This personal peace seemed to fuel a professional renaissance, and it came from the most unlikely place imaginable. In the early 1980s, Hunter got a call from the cult filmmaker John Waters, the Pope of Trash. Waters wanted to cast him in his new film, Polyester, opposite the legendary drag queen Divine. It was a surreal proposition. Tab Hunter, the epitome of 1950s wholesomeness, starring in a subversive, satirical, scratch-and-sniff movie. It was genius. And for Hunter, it was a chance to finally wink at the very image that had once confined him. He said yes. His performance in Polyester was a revelation. It showed a side of him the world had never seen, a man with a wicked sense of humor about his own past. The cult hit rebooted his career. He and Glazer formed a production company and went on to make another film with Divine, Lust in the Dust. This late career comeback was a remarkable act of self-reinvention. The man who was once a product of the studio system had found new life in the world of independent film, finally free to be himself, both on and off the screen for decades. Tab Hunter's story was owned by others, written by publicists, and weaponized by scandal magazines. The truth of his life had always been a source of fear. But as he grew older, living happily with his partner Alan Glazer, he decided it was time to take control of his own narrative. In 2005, at the age of 74, he published his memoir, Tab Hunter Confidential, The Making of a Movie Star. The title was a brilliant act of defiance, taking the name of the magazine that tried to destroy him and using it to finally tell his own truth. In its pages, he spoke openly for the first time about the pressures of being a closeted star, the pain of his fake relationships, the heartbreak of his romance with Anthony Perkins, and the betrayal that led to the Confidential scandal. The book was a sensation and a bestseller. More than just a juicy Hollywood tell-all, it was a profound, human story. It pulled back the curtain on the hypocrisy of Hollywood's golden age, exposing the cruel machinery that profited from manufactured images while forcing people to deny their authentic selves. By coming out on his own terms, Hunter became an unlikely and powerful voice for LGBTQ history. His story was a testament to the thousands of artists who were forced to live and love in secret, and his courage helped pave the way for greater acceptance in the entertainment industry. So what is Tab Hunter's legacy? He's remembered as the quintessential 1950s heartthrob, the golden boy who defined an era. But he's also remembered as the man who bravely dismantled that very image to reveal the complex, courageous person who was there all along. He was no longer just a sci guy or a studio product. He was a survivor, a pioneer, and a man who, after a lifetime of performing, finally found the freedom that comes with living in the truth. If you found this story of resilience and truth compelling, make sure to like, share, and subscribe for more hidden histories of old Hollywood, and let us know in the comments what's your favorite Tab Hunter film, and what do you think of his incredible story. Tab Hunter passed away in 2018, just 3 days shy of his 87th birthday, from cardiac arrest caused by a blood clot. His death was sudden and unexpected. He had spent his final years living a life of quiet contentment in Montecito, California, with Alan Glazer, his partner of over 35 years. In the end, the boy who was told who to be, what to say, and who to love, had won. He outlived the studio system that tried to own him, the prejudice that tried to shame him, and the scandals that tried to break him. Tab Hunter's greatest role wasn't as a soldier or a cowboy, but as himself, a role he finally got to play, on his own terms, in the final, triumphant act of his extraordinary life.